Hi there, I'm Graeme Codrington and I'm sitting here in a co-working space doing some work on my next project, being a future smart parent. And yeah, just thought I'd share some of this information with you. I've spent the last 2 decades researching the future of work, traveling all around the world, speaking to companies, individuals, schools, organizations about how the future of work is changing, how the world around us is changing, and what it means for us as people, as leaders. I've written a number of books, including a number which have won some awards, which has been great. Probably the most well known for Mind the Gap, which looked at different generation gaps, and also a book called Future Proof Your Child, which was really aimed at children, age kind of from birth up to 12 years old. But I've got 3 teenage daughters now. My oldest daughter's now at university, and my mind has been going over the last few years to now look at teenagers, young adult students, and what do they need to know in order to be successful in the future of work. And this is actually really bringing a lot of the things that I do together, working with corporates all around the world, with senior leaders and management teams, helping them to understand what their world of work is going to look like. I now want to go to the flip side of that and help young people and their parents to know what you need to do in order to prepare for that future of work. So that's really what I've been doing some work on over the last few days, and I thought I'd just share some of my insights with you now. In the past, the goal that we had as parents was to basically help our children to get a good job. I mean, that was ultimately what we were aiming for. With all the things that we do for our kids, ultimately we're trying to help them to become good, solid adults who can look after themselves, get out of our houses, make their own way in life. And that really required them to get a good job. To get a good job, if they were capable of it, the ideal that most parents had in their mind was the professional. So you had to go to university and you had to study to become lawyer, doctor, engineer, accountant, actuary, vet, architect, whatever you preferred. In order to get into university, you had to get a good matric, a good school leaving certificate, preferably with a few A's spotted about it so that you could get into university. And in order to get a good matric, you had to go to a good high school in particular. So if you could afford it, if you were lucky enough to be able to do this, then in many countries around the world, then private education was the way to go. So we kill ourselves as parents. We work like Trojans to get our kids into these private schools, support them all the way through, get that school leaving certificate, get into university, get through university, get that certificate, that degree, and get a good job, and then take a breath, our job is done. Problem is that that doesn't work anymore because now, well, the robots are going to do all those work for us. I mean, not robots as kind of, these metal machines that look like humans, but software and algorithms. 50 years ago, the danger with robots taking our work is that they took the manual work from the factory labors. They could do spot welding way better than somebody working in a car factory. And so actual robots came to the manufacturing sector. Today it's algorithms, it's software, it's artificial intelligence, it's machine learning. And honestly, in the 2020s, as we head towards the year 2030, we're going to see more and more software coming in and replacing some of the tasks of the professionals. Any task that a professional does, which is simply the repetition of previous knowledge, the machines are going to be much better at doing this than we are. I know it's a simplification, but lawyers spend a lot of their time looking at previous case law. If that's all you're doing, finding old case law and then applying it to new situations, well, a machine can do that. A machine can do most of the discovery that lawyers have to do. A machine can do most of the work that a normal conveyance needs to do. Certainly a machine can do a lot of the work that a bookkeeper and an accountant needs to do. The diagnosis that a GP does really is not creative. In fact, the last thing you want is a creative doctor who says, oh, I'll try out some new drugs on you. So last thing we want a doctor to diagnose us according to strict protocols set out by their country's medical professionals. I could go on, and I know I'm simplifying, but I'm not simplifying too much. Professions are going to be impacted by artificial intelligence and algorithms. So if all of that is coming, what does a good job look like? And if a good job isn't one of the professions, well, then surely the whole system we've had in our minds as parents needs to change. So that's one line of thinking that I'm going on, that if the end goal is changing what a good job looks like, well, then the whole system that we've got in our minds of parenting needs to change as well. A second thought that I had, which kind of loops back again on the same thing, is what is a great outcome for life? Now we're thinking about our children, but we're probably also thinking about ourselves as well. We don't just want our kids to be happy. We want them to be fulfilled, to have a great life. Now, in the past, the idea was you would find your job, this great job, by asking two questions. The first question was, how much does it pay? Does it give me enough money in order to live the type of life I want to live? That's the very reason I didn't become a professional musician. I've played musical instruments my whole life. Still play the trumpet to this day, and I had the tremendous privilege of being paid to play my trumpet for a year, so can claim to have been a professional musician. But the reason I didn't do it for a living is that year was the year that I proposed to my wife, and I just did simple maths and worked out that if the lifestyle that, well, I'm being rude to her, but the lifestyle she had become accustomed to, the lifestyle we both wanted to live, was not going to be supported. So yeah, how much does it pay? And that helps you to make some life decisions. And the second thing is, are you any good at it? Now, those two things go together. If I was a world-class musician, I probably would have given it a go. I was just reasonable, and that wasn't enough to sustain a life. But that's not where we are today. Here, let me show you what I've been working on here. So we have this little thing. In fact, let me put it on the screen for you to make it easier for you to see. We have this Japanese concept called ikigai. I think that's the right pronunciation. And it's called a reason for being. And I really like this. And I think this is what we should be helping our kids to have a look at. You've got to look at four key areas now. Not only what you are good at and what you can be paid for. Can you see that on the left and at the bottom there? That gives you a profession. That's what we've been doing in the past. But there are two other things that we've got to pull into this equation now. The first is, what do you love doing? That's different from what you can be paid for and what you're good at. If you find a job that allows you to do what you love and you're good at it at the same time, well, then you've got a passion. But you might not get paid for it. If you add a fourth element to this is something that the world actually needs. Now, some of you might be rolling your eyes at this a little bit, but seriously, today's young people do take this into account, and I think they're right. I think that we shouldn't be asking just, what do I want to be when I grow up? We need to be asking, what does the world need when I grow up? What problems can I solve? And honestly, I think the happiest, most fulfilled young adults that I know are young adults that have found early in life something of a purpose, something that they can do that actually solves a real problem in the world. Now, if you can make that your job, if you can do that for a living, something that the world needs, well, my word, you've got yourself a fantastic job. Now, as you can see on the diagram, if you do something that you love and the world needs it, you've got yourself a mission, but you might still not be paid for it. If you do something that the world needs and you get paid for it, like an aid worker or something like that, well, then you've got a vocation. But we've got to try and find something that pulls all four of these together. Isn't that a wonderful goal to have for our kids? That we find something that they love, something that they're good at, something that they can be paid for, paid enough that they can live a reasonable life, and then it's also something that fills them with a sense of purpose and allows them to do something that the world actually needs. They solve a big problem. If you can find all of those four things, my word, what a life you would live. By the way, it's not too late for us as parents either. We're going to live longer than we thought we would. So why don't we start trying to get a little bit of ikigai in our lives as well? So that's really what this whole future smart parent thing is about. We want to find out, how do we help our kids to grow up and come into the world in a space where they get ikigai and where we have been helpful as parents rather than a pain in the butt or actually sending them in the wrong direction. We want to be helpful as parents in making sure we make the right decisions around schooling, then support our kids to make the right decisions around what they study, how they apply themselves at school, what they do after school, if they go to university at all, what do they study while they're there, and what other skills and attributes and habits might need to be put in place to support them to be able to get to this ikigai stage. So that's what I'm working on, and we'll have some more information available as soon as this content and these courses are available. But stay connected, stay in touch with now. Put your name on our mailing list so that you can get information as it becomes available. Right, I need to get back to work.